Welcome back once again, everybody. I got Nabil and James with me as always. What's up, guys?
What up?
Hey Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great, in fact. I don't know how the hell I pulled off a win last week, but I did. Um, hold on. I can't not.
Can I say some
We
big
would
news? Can I say big news?
say some big news.
Yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
So, you know that us, as the trio of this pod, are making it big when Drew Kitchen listens to this on his way to work.
Ah, excellent.
We're doing
Excellent.
it big, boys.
We demographic is Drew Kitchen, really. It's Drew Kitchen and people who like or who are like Drew Kitchen, people who look like him, act like him, talk like him. That's really who we're going for. So if we get Drew Kitchen himself, that's a big deal, a real big deal.
Yeah.
So hopefully I haven't looked at Drew's roster. Has he filled it out yet? Because he did make a pretty big trade that we were just talking about before we hit record. But is his roster full yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got a second kicker. 7, 8. He does have a full roster, right? Is that 9, 10,
Yeah.
11,
Not just
12,
I want to
13,
mock
14,
his team
15,
for having
16,
two
17.
kickers. He's
I
hiring.
mean, he at least he doesn't have any bye week issues to fill, I guess, for his. I don't know. Is Tyler Bass worth keeping on the roster? He's got like
rostered.
it's pretty. I mean, it might be worth it. Who's he playing down the stretch? Like he's got Denver and New England, and Pittsburgh will be tough, but those are decent playoff matchups, I'd say. Maybe not in the cold actually in December. Like the teams maybe, but like I don't know how much kicking. I mean, Denver obviously Mile High. You're gonna go for the longer kicks, but like both of these have the potential to be snow games, you know. So maybe not the kicker you need to stash for the playoff run.
I like that we're starting the pod off with a bang by really breaking down the Buffalo's kickers playoff schedule.
Totally
Told
off
you, man.
script,
We're making it big.
totally off script. Let's recap last week though. The first thing I did want to talk about, we got to give the people what they want. James, just walk us through how your thoughts and feelings when Nick Chubb decided to run out of bounds at the 1 yard line instead of scoring a touchdown.
It was rough, especially watching the later games and seeing that it did in fact lose me the week. Also,
you missed out.
Josh Jacobs decides to not play in the fourth, and the backup gets 2 more touchdowns. I don't know. It's how the season's going. I feel like my fantasy season's aligned with the Niners pretty. I've got great talent, but they're just flukes and bumps are keeping me out of it.
Yeah. Nabil, your thoughts? I mean, James also missed out on being the high scorer for the week because Chubb didn't score that touchdown. That's how close he was.
You're making it sound like these players are doing bad. Chubb's in there with an 18. Why don't you just go ahead and look at my recap and then talk to me about unfortunate? Like Chubb put up 18 points. I feel like that's nothing to complain about.
He had a breakaway touchdown run and he purposefully stepped out of bounds.
Yeah, that was a good play. Honestly, would you like that or would you like Todd Gurley, who just falls into the end zone when he shouldn't? So
from a fantasy perspective, I would rather have Todd Gurley. Like
100%.
I mean, especially like I can't believe it really came to 1 more yard and 6 points in the touchdown. Even the yard doesn't matter. The yards and the touchdown is enough to put you over the top. And
I'm mostly just giving you a hard time, but that's an unfortunate loss.
I can't believe it worked its way out that way, and that your 3-0 start has been completely squandered away, James. But what a terrible week overall for scoring. Like I said, this is actually this score right here, Kevin's 125.86, is the lowest high score ever in our 7 years of our league. As Rocha pointed out, lots of good bench scoring. Claypool with 21 on the bench and another 21 from Herbert over here, just to point out a couple. What do you think happened this week? Like what was it? Is this just dumb luck? Was there something in the water? Like what?
It could have been that I watched zero football this weekend, and so that we don't need to impress Nabil. He's not watching.
Okay. Okay.
That'd be my only guess. That's actually the only thing I have for most of this.
It was not fun to watch fantasy for our league across the board.
It's weird too, because the games were high scoring games, like 36.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a 46-23 game.
I remember looking at when I saw everyone score, because I'm the commissioner of my work leagues, and I looked and like no one scored over 100. Like the highest week might have been up 114. That's a half point league, but like it was weird because I'm like, oh well, I guess I'll look at the games. They must have had like bad weather and been really close. And then you look and it's like in the like, yeah, wasn't there a 40 and a 30-point game or something like that? And it's like sitting there like, I think it's just the scrub. It's either bad defense or bad offenses just like getting their opponents in better field position. So like drives aren't very long, right? You're not getting like the 80-yard drives. You're getting 40-yard drives.
I think you're right. And I think also the ball, like Kevin was saying in the chat, like the ball is getting spread around more. Like it's not necessarily like we haven't seen those like 45-point outbreaks that like McCaffrey was getting like last year. Like there have been outbreaks. I mean, just even, I pulled up mine and Travis's matchup because I do want to talk about that one. Kyler Murray went for 30.9. Like that's a big game, but it's real. Like there just haven't been like there's been a lot of sharing of the football. I feel like this year, like quarterback play seems to be up as far as scoring goes, but like there just are a lot of guys getting like 5 points at running back, And
I think
so like, yeah.
I would kindly disagree with the fact that I think there have been a lot of players that have come in and had huge weeks, but I think what's hard is they aren't necessarily coming from the top 2 rounds, right? Like you're
not being started every week.
Round 1, round 2 started. Yeah, they're just like not. And so I think what's happening is like because there's more talent in the pool, like you're just having a harder time, choosing the right one, right? Because like I think I know DJ Chark didn't do well this week, but like wasn't it the previous week that he kind of went off again? And it's like that's a name that I think top 4 rounds you would have thought it would be like a 20-point producer, but he's not. And I just think it's the ball is getting spread around more, but I don't think it's for a lack of like starters blowing up for points. I just think maybe all our teams are pretty well rounded, which is why no one has like 3 or 4 of those 20-point games anymore.
Right.
Just wait till playoffs and everyone trades.
I also think it's like injuries within the NFL currently. And I think also there's just like kind of a handful of teams that are kind of in like the Packers situation where there's like a clear 1 and then like 4 or 5 2s that this year more than it seems like past years, instead of like there's a pretty clear number 1 and pretty clear number 2 on most teams. Like even with the Niners, like Richie James was fantasy relevant like the last 2 weeks. It's just like so many more names now. You don't know.
No, that's kind of what I was getting at. Like it's not that there isn't big production, Nabil. It's just that like there's a lot like the secondary, the old like Randall Cobb role when he was playing in Green Bay. Like he was never the number 1 wide receiver, but like he could just bust out a 35-point game because he got 3 touchdowns. Like it happened, and like those, and maybe so it's kind of exactly what you are saying, Nabil. Like it's not like the big games aren't coming consistently from the like, oh, like it's always Hopkins or Michael Thomas or Julio Jones who's like having these big. It's like it's coming from DJ Chark. It's coming from Terry McLaurin, who I know went in the second round in our league, but like typically is not going to be, seen. I would guess most redraft leagues. I can't remember where McLaurin was going. Probably like 7th or 8th round. Like, but he's had a couple of big games. It was a weird week. Especially weird. I don't want to talk about it too much. I don't feel like I'm gloating, but I was super excited to pull out the win somehow against Travis. And I swear, man, Travis's team is probably one of the most well-rounded. And he's got the he scored the most points, and to be at 6-4 and have another bad break. Like, I'm not gonna say I feel bad for winning. I don't. If I had picked correctly on any of the 4 running backs I was deciding between, it would have been an easy win for me. But I literally I started jumping up and down when Chicago ran that kickback. It was so exciting for me, and I do have to mention that. Was
So
anyone else watching on Monday and thinking of me and the Chicago Bears special teams?
I'm always thinking of you, Mish.
Thank you.
My thing is like I agree that if you look at his starting roster, it's pretty well rounded, but I think he's a manager that he's gonna need like he's not. I would say in the past he's not notorious for making a whole bunch of trades. The only one that I remember is which involves me, which was a couple of years ago when it was Julio Jones for Marshawn Lynch. But what I don't like, what's hard is like he doesn't have that running back depth. If he loses Dalvin Cook, Mike Davis isn't going to carry the ball much longer. And so he's kind of sitting there probably needing to make a huge trade.
Well, didn't he just trade for Madison? He did. So he has Travis he's got Cook's handcuffs, right? But this is almost as a press time, right? I think that happened a couple days ago when you got Madison from Kevin. So he's good with whoever's the running back in Minnesota. Agreed that Mike Davis is potentially not going to be.
Probably has like 2 more weeks, right?
Maybe, but he's got David Montgomery, who I know
who I guess has been all right.
I know just got hurt, but like look at Montgomery's production. Like since week 4, double-digit points until the game he got hurt. Then he sat a game out. He's got a bye. Like if you have a 10-point floor at your RB2, like that's pretty solid, especially this year when scoring seems to be a little wonky.
I mean, that's fair. I think I just look at it and we're probably going to talk about this a little bit later, but I feel like there's going to be a moment to win the championship in Splatty. You do need to buy the players and give up next year's capital, but maybe not. That's not always the truth. I had a great team against James and he beat me. So, I mean, I definitely know that it doesn't always pay off.
Yeah.
But it's just, that would be my only concern. I do think probably one of the better, just like, or like that stack we can keep talking about. Like Christian Kirk is still kind of working well with Kyler Murray. And so it's like, okay, well, he lucked into something that, well, he didn't luck. I guess he he has definitely been beating that drum for the longest time, but
he has.
It's paying off, and I think it'll pay off down the stretch.
This game's about to kick off, by the way, at the time of recording, so we don't know how it's going at all. But by the time you listen to this, you probably will know what happened in the Arizona-Seattle game. Just wanted to throw that in there.
I would say though, like looking at people's teams, we're likely to find a hole in anyone's, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because again of how pretty well balanced the league is in general, of like all of us being competitive. No one's just going to have that one team from the start. Well, I guess maybe minus, is it Ryan that has like the wide receiver core that like everyone could just drool over because of how delicious
Hopkins,
it looks?
T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Fulgham, Corey Davis.
No, it's
Jarvis
not.
Landry. It's not Ryan. Are you talking about Ryan Rocha?
Oh, it might be. It might be Drew then.
I think it is Drew.
Drew has a bunch.
Because I think that was the one that was just like, that's like the only one you look
Metcalf,
at. And it's like,
Metcalf, Moore, Woods, Diggs.
Yeah.
Easley, who had a monster game. But was one of those guys I think where it's like, I had him in a league and I didn't start Beasley because I had other guys ahead of him. I do want to point out, Nabil, that just last year Antonio made exactly 0 trades involving draft picks and won the title. So it's not impossible by any means to win it without trading. But typically, you're gonna, Nabil or Antonio also made some good moves to set himself up well keeper wise going into the 2019 season. So it's not like he didn't have a loaded up roster that helped him win. It just he didn't have to make any moves down the stretch because he did just a great job last year of doing it in the preseason.
Look, we're in the big 3 era of our league, and it's okay. Every once in a while, you'll get a Maverick that wins, and otherwise, I think we're just gonna have to start.
Who are your big 3?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, start buying people, getting not my big 3.
Okay.
I don't have a big 3. I'm talking about big 3 era of like stacking your team where other teams,
right.
Who
is your then Nabil or James? Let's go. If you had to name a big 3 from either your titles, who's your big 3?
Players.
Yeah, like
Devontae Freeman was
obviously, yeah.
keeper for years. Todd Gurley single-handedly won me a championship.
Right.
And then I think it's Dan Bailey who scored 26 in the kicker slot to beat Kevin by like one.
Okay. But that's, I mean, was Dan Bailey really the reason? Like, did he carry your team to the title the whole year? That's kind of what I'm thinking Nabil's getting at. But I'll accept it for now. Nabil, if you remember back to your team, who's the what'd you win in 16?
Yeah, I'm looking it up because it's got to be
Oh,
Marshawn
that was
Lynch.
me. No, that was me. Yeah, I was 16, which is actually good because.
Yeah, why don't you start?
See, what's funny though is because
if
you guys remember, and I'm like, I made this my. Oh, you can't. But I don't know if you can even see, but I made Mount Rustymore was my. I crudely photoshopped a big four actually, which is why I thought it was funny called a big three, because I had Jordy Nelson, Odell Beckham Jr. and AJ Green were absolutely the big three receivers. All three of them finished in the top, I want to say 7 or 8 in PPR receiving that year. And then I also threw in my boy, the other pass catcher, Delaney Walker, as at tight end. And like that was my WR1, WR2, flex, and tight end. And like I had terrible running backs. Yeah, like I started Alfred Blue and Thomas and Blue. I started Rawls and Blue, who were they teammates? It says they both played against Tennessee.
I thought I had a big four or a big three with like a little compliment guy. Because let's be real, I feel like your big four doesn't count your quarterback, right? Like it.
Well, I had the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton.
Yeah, well, he obviously put up a lot of points there.
He's a Splatty Bowl winning quarterback, so I don't want to hear nothing.
Hey, Romo Arigato finally got his win as well. So yeah, mine was Romo, Antonio Brown, LaShawn McCoy, and Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, that was your big three.
And then I definitely love that at the end of my finals, I just like scooped up all the defenses to try to figure out what my best option was, because I rocked Green Bay, Detroit, and San Francisco with 2 kickers as well. I only had 2 people on my bench, which was Mark Sanchez and Torrey Smith, both who produced 20 points, but sat on the bench.
Mark Sanchez forever etched on the Splatty keg. All right, enough about the past. Let's look forward a little bit. So going into next week, there are a couple big matchups. The first one we got to talk about, just because we've previewed it multiple times at this point on this podcast, but Rocha versus Travis is finally happening. I think we've kind of agreed this is the most likely championship preview. Ryan looks like he's going to pretty easily coast into the 1 seed at this point, or at the very least, he's I can't see him getting tracked down and losing the bye by this point. Travis still has work to do just to make the playoffs, but he's got a great roster, and it's partially underway. Anything in particular that either one of you are looking at as far as like this matchup goes? And like I know we've talked about like the certain stacks, but is there anything beyond that you guys are looking into?
I think it's just whether or not Rocha chooses the right Rams running back, right? Because I feel like, or at this point, it's like who he puts in at RB2 there. But I think the teams are pretty well stacked. I mean, I guess the projections were relatively close.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the big? Oh, it's like the projection of Hopkins having 21, which is kind of interesting to see what receiver comes out top there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I think it's an uphill battle for Travis, and if he can squeak it out somehow, it did look like Juju was back in form last week, right? Like, didn't he go off last week? So
he had a touchdown.
Oh, if that's it, then
yeah,
maybe
he
that's
had
not that
no.
great.
Like, I mean, he was good. He just played against no Juju. Yeah, he had 13 targets, 9 catches for 77 and a touchdown. Like, he had a great.
But if you look over since week 7, right? Like he's been. He's been at your wide receiver 1, maybe not top tier.
As low as a 13.7 in the last 4 weeks. Like that's pretty. Like he's trending upwards. James, any other thoughts on Travis versus Rocha?
Not trying to get back to this for selfish reasons, but knowing that this could be Mike Davis's last week and Just looking at how the top of the league's rosters are pretty solid across the board. I think he does need a trade. I don't think David Montgomery, like now seeing like a projected week to week, is like enough to rely on, I think.
Yeah, it definitely helps to have that depth at running back, but
just knowing you're getting like a potentially like 50 points if like 2 just solid outings from running backs is so huge. But
I totally see that. I think it's possible to get, to win from with your depth at any position, and Travis definitely has it at receiver, at quarterback, at kicker, with his man Justin Tucker there. But I see where you're getting at. I think though the most unique takeaway from this is if Hopkins has a big game, right? That probably means Murray has a big game. So that, to me, it's like, does that, like, literally like the Murray to Hopkins connection that was so important in real football last week with the Hail Mary to win the game. Like, like, can Murray have a big game for Travis with Hopkins scoring like less than 15? Like, I don't think that's possible, right?
Well, he's on his feet all the time, so he's one of the top runners, right?
But he's getting a ton of. I mean, yeah, he's already tied the NFL record for number of games in a season with a passing and rushing touchdown with 8. 8 out of the 9 games he's played in, he has a passing and rushing touchdown, which again ties the NFL record. He has 7 games left to play. I can, in barring injury, he's going to pass it. He's going to shatter that record. And he hasn't had a bad game yet, though. Actually, he's got 23 is his low, and then you look at Hopkins. So Hopkins only twice or 3 times has gone single digit. So like, can that happen? Because if it does, then all of a sudden this game, now the Chiefs Raiders stack, Chiefs Raiders games with that Kansas City stack for Rocha becomes huge. But I don't know. I feel like Hopkins is a great player to have against Kyler Murray, like specifically, like that matchup. Like, it can help you a lot when you have a top receiver going against the quarterback throwing to him, because every time your receiver scores, like, you're scoring more points than the quarterback, and I can't see that helping Travis this much. So I don't know. Like, I will know a lot after Thursday's night game about how this matchup could go.
I just think the implications of the game were a lot bigger 2 years ago or not 2 years, 2 weeks ago, when we were looking at it as like, oh, this is going to be a pivotal matchup. But I think with the way that Ryan's schedule has ended here, honestly, even if he loses this, like, this game doesn't really have that big of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is a big matchup because you have the top scorer against the guy who's number 1. But in the end, the only person that this is important to is Travis, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, Travis is still in the running for that bye.
Yeah, I mean, but it's I still can't get over. He's 1375. He has 300 points more than me. That's fantastic.
It's a lot. Yeah, because looking at it, it's big for like, obviously. So like, Rocha clinches a bye with one more win, because Travis, especially if it comes tonight, Travis could catch him. If Travis does beat Rocha, he'll be 2 games up. So I guess maybe there is a way that Ryan might not get it with only one more win. But Drew can't. Like, Drew needs to completely overtake Rocha, right? Like, he's not going to catch. Like, maybe he could catch him with 100 points, but yeah, Travis very much needs this if he wants to try to get in that bye category, or else he's looking to have to win 3 in a row, which has been tough for everybody except for Rocha this year in order to get a title.
My God, Wilson just threw a touchdown to Metcalf.
Oh, did he? Is it going to be one of those shootouts that that you mentioned last week, James? The NFC West shoot, like the.
Yeah.
Hey, don't say anything too soon, because I thought I was going to have a great game when we were watching it mid-Thursday recording. Then I only ended with 10 points.
Well, let's peek into so that's a big touchdown then for Drew Stack, because this is probably actually one of the other more interesting matchups is Drew versus Devin. Like Devin all of a sudden like needs to win to try to get, he's behind Hoyt in the tiebreaker. Like if he wins one more game than me, he's going to pass me, but being behind Hoyt is not good in the tiebreaker. And it's like the same thing. Like he needs Lockett to get to get some love from Russell Wilson. That could help mitigate it. But if Wilson just keeps feeding Metcalf all night, it could be bad news for Devin. James, any thoughts on this matchup and what it means to the league?
Yeah, I think it's a huge bummer for Devin to already see this happening, because if it tonight just turns out to be the DK game and Lockett's out of it, it's just like such a huge uphill battle from that point.
It is.
And, like, honestly, it almost feels like if it like is a huge DK Metcalf game, his season's like over after the Thursday night games.
It could be.
They're both projected still to do fine. Obviously, I think with Metcalf already having a touchdown, like it's going to be close, or it's going to be, in DK Metcalf's favor, obviously having one touchdown already. But I think what's actually kind of hard for Devin is he might need to start checking on Matt Stafford's health, because he has a torn ligament in his thumb, and right now is like day to day, but he's still practicing. So hopefully he just rocks Tua. That's exactly what I was going to do.
I think it's got to be Tua time, because for me, if I'm Devin, and I hope that Devin had this thought without me saying it, but if not, I hope he hears this podcast and realizes, like, why not? Like, why not do exactly what the Dolphins did and just go with it? Because I don't think Stafford is going to be healthy, even if he tries to. Like, he's not going to look good if he tries to play through it. Why not? Why not give Tua a chance? Because he might need it. Also, probably wants to make a change at defense, and so that projection should go up a little bit, because
I don't know. Tom Brady's been throwing picks like it's nobody's business. So.
Yeah, but that should just be a high scoring game. The Rams, as much as Aaron Donald is probably the greatest defensive player, maybe ever. They have not been a good team defense, as far as giving up points. I just want to point out too, Drew needs this. Drew could sneak his way into getting a bye, but if he's not doing good in total points, I think he's 7th overall. Drew, as much as he's safely in the playoffs, at this point, he's not going to get.
He's had the easiest schedule.
Yeah, he's not going to get tracked down in a limit, right? One more win and he clinches a spot, and that'd be huge for Drew, because you lose 1 week, right? And then you're like, okay, maybe Hoyt and Devin gain on you a little bit in points. And then if you lose the next week, I don't even know what his schedule looks like. We can take a look, but the sooner you want to, he plays Antonio next week. He plays Travis next week and then Antonio. If you're Drew, you drop this one and then you drop the next one potentially. I know Antonio doesn't have that great of a team and he's clearly in sell mode, but you do not want to be going from 3rd place with 3 weeks to go to
on the
needing
cusp.
a win on the cusp. So if I'm Drew, the sooner I get that win and clinch it, the better.
But he's got to be feeling pretty after these, the most recent trade. He's one that, that's where I think if anyone is in the top 4, I think at this point, you're feeling comfortable with 3 games left. This is the time to really solidify your team.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Kevin can also clinch a win, or can clinch a playoff spot with a win over Spencer, and Spencer's right there in that playoff hunt too. He's not great in points, so he's got a chance to get tracked down. But I can't imagine that anyone outside that top. I mean, Drew's already made the moves, and Kevin made a trade with Travis that wasn't really a big buy, but the top 3 and then Travis too. So yeah, the top 4, I can't imagine that any of them are looking to do anything other than add to their rosters at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking at I did want to make sure we ran through all the trades, because there were some big ones. We kind of mentioned them here and there. So the Scott for Madison trade, obviously we talked about it. It basically just gives Travis his handcuff for Dalvin Cook. Do you guys think that Kevin got enough back in getting an 11th round pick to basically guarantee Travis has his handcuff. Like I don't think Boston Scott is by any means going to try to be like, shuffled right into a starting lineup. It's not like it's a terrible player. But do you guys think that Kevin got enough, or would you rather seen him try to get a little bit more, or did he steal one from Travis and this was too easy?
I just don't like this trade in general. I don't think if I was in Kevin's position, I could realistically get enough for Madison. Mm-hmm. But I think I'd rather just prefer to like bury him on my bench. And if Dalvin Cook goes down, great, I've got him. So if I play Travis in the playoffs, I don't have to worry about it. But it's hard to justify getting anything more than like this late round swap.
Yeah. Nabil?
I think what's hard is, and what makes this trade even weirder, in my opinion, because I'm going to agree with James to an extent on what he said, is it's weird because these are both playoff teams.
Right.
Right. And so then you're looking at it, okay, is an 11th round worth
potentially?
If Cook goes down, you're getting another Cook anyway. So you're not like helping your chances in the playoff. Is it better just to sit with Madison, and then if Cook goes down, you have the Cook and he doesn't? Like, that's the important part, is someone who could make playoffs doesn't have that. Now, I actually think that Travis, for getting what he really needed, got a good deal, right? Like, he only paid an 11th, which is a random wide receiver or a quarterback, right? So like, he didn't necessarily give up much to get his handcuff. And now I think it's a very interesting move for Kevin, because in the end, he got an 11th. And if Cook never goes down, he got an 11th round for nothing. I just feel like,
just like high risk, low reward.
To me, it's a little bit high risk, low reward for Kevin. I think Travis absolutely made the right move. I don't know that Kevin could have got much more out of it too. And so you're basically banking on, like, Cook's been solid all year. I think he can most likely he's not going to need Madison to play. And like, Kevin's got James Conner, he's got Zeke, like, he's got other options at running back, like with Edmonds. Boston Scott probably is pretty far down on there. Like, if Mostert comes back, like, all of a sudden, like, Mostert becomes an immediate startable player. Like, I don't think Kevin needs the depth and to hold on to other people's handcuffs anymore. So I don't dislike it, but I do wish, because Travis, like, because that could potentially save his season, that he had to pay a little bit more. But like, the spirit of the trade, I completely understand. I would have loved to see it be like a 7th or 8th round pick, like, just like a little bit more. But who knows if Travis is like, if you might just say, screw you, that's not worth it.
Or just like an early round swap of like a 3rd for a 4th, and like
up higher,
just move up like 10 picks in the draft. But
maybe
early.
It's always interesting to see trades as that. Obviously, we all kind of have an understanding of what the, like, trade economy should look like, and I think 3 years ago we were all just way over the mat, like all over the place on like what value was where. So the good thing I'm thinking is, like, we might not love the trade, but we're all at least understanding the thought process behind it, and at least agreeing that, like, the value's not terrible. I do think that Travis got the better end of this deal, but like, if Cook doesn't get hurt, then it's a great trade for Kevin, and that's just like, that's what he's banking on.
Well, I mean, I agree to disagree, because I think anything in the teens at that point is like, he's not getting a lot of capital from that. And that's like, I mean, we could talk about the other trade, but I think it would be interesting for us to have a discussion like post this last trade, to just like, what does our league look like in the next 3 weeks, plus like, where should we be going as a league, as far, well, not should, but like,
so
more people. Let's just talk about
this trade will actually prompt one of those like rule change discussions that we kind of already started, that I want to like talk through why this might help. Anyway, Justin Jefferson and a 1st round pick to Antonio for DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey and a 4th round pick to Drew. So Drew giving up his 1st round pick. It's the 2nd time ever that Drew has done that. Last time I think he ended up giving up, it was the 4th overall pick that he gave up to Hunter 3 years ago, I want to say. Nabil, I know that you have some thoughts on this. I'm going to swing it to James first. James, just from optics, what are you thinking about this trade?
I'm loving that the price of Josh Jacobs now probably goes up a little bit, and he's sitting on my team ready to be moved to another roster to make a playoff push. But
nice little ad spot there.
Yeah. It's kind of surprising that Justin Jefferson was part of the move, because he's like such a great, he can have these boom weeks. Yeah. I guess like DJ Moore's enough to get back that part of the trade. I'm just kind of like, that's like a pretty relevant wide receiver to be sending away in a trade that you're kind of mortgaging the future for the present.
Great keeper value too. Let's take a look.
He's a 10th round, and I feel like, just like while you're kind of looking up stuff, like if you were to put in a vacuum, I think maybe we'd both sit with why would you trade wide receiver, but like Justin Jefferson and a DJ Moore just straight up, right, with whatever the keeper value, like I think is like pretty good. You can get a guy who is more relevant, but Justin Jefferson, and this is a great move for Antonio if this was his thought process, like Adam Thielen is older. Did they end up getting a deal done?
I don't remember if Thielen has a deal.
So like in the end, he has a starting wide receiver for the Vikings, which at this point does mean something. And so now he has future capital and a potential starter, while giving up DJ Moore, who hasn't worked out for him, has been hot and cold. Maybe not exactly what he wanted. He had big games. I looked at his schedule, but then, he's getting pretty much then Christian McCaffrey for a 1st round, which I think, and, this is kind of what we were hinting at before, is like, that is what should be the cost. But the problem is like, now all of us who are selling want prices similar to that. And so good for Drew, because now maybe other people aren't going to get players, because, I've talked to managers where they don't want to give up rounds that are earlier in the beginning because they don't want to risk their next year's draft. However, that's what you got to do to win at this point.
Yeah.
And I think go ahead.
It's just a bit like early bird gets the worm, like Drew cracked first, and like he got what he wanted, and now has that changed the market so that other teams that are looking to buy are not going to be able to, like, they're going to have to spend at least that much.
And I think that this goes to a conversation that we were talking about before, which is capital versus the player, right? Like if you're, and that ties more towards, if you're trying to win this year, you need to just not be so concerned about drafts in the future, because we've already seen James, who's been able to get to playoffs without having a whole bunch of early round picks. Right. So like people need to realize, like, trust your keepers that are already people on your roster. Like Drew, who didn't know the Rule 9 draft rules, which I had to explain, that he actually gets to keep DK Metcalf's value that he drafted him at. Because he was trying to trade me Hunt. I'll go ahead and expose this, and he was like, "No, you don't get him. He's not a keeper next year." And I'm like, "That's the only reason I'm holding on to Hunt." But you know what I mean? Like people are gonna start like, okay, I have these late round keepers. I'm gonna just start buying all the starters because I'm comfortable in that my keepers can be a good foundation for next year. Now let me go win a championship, because that was like why it worked so well for James. Is I think those were the times when you had Devontae Freeman when he was a starter.
Yeah, I mean,
you had a 1st round pick. It didn't matter, right? Like you only need a couple, because there's plenty of seasons that 1st round picks don't even pan out.
Exactly. Yeah, I want one of my championship years. I picked Marshawn 1st overall, and he got hurt like week 2. Like you can easily win with your 1st round pick out.
If you have depth elsewhere, like if you have to have
like you have the chance in the playoffs, like go win it. Don't worry about next year.
Yeah. Absolutely. I want to back up just a bit because we talked about like, well, why, is Jefferson a guy that Drew really needed to trade away? Like we talked about his receiver depth and how nuts it is with Metcalf. Now he adds more, but he already had, Woods, Stephon Diggs, and Cole Beasley. So I think getting rid of Jefferson like is not bad because when was he going to start him anyway? I just want to throw that out there. And then the keeper value ends up being great for Antonio to be able to have him there because just looking at what Drew has, like I gotta imagine he's probably gonna keep Russell Wilson in the 13th. That's gotta be one of his two, right? And then like, is Metcalf worth keeping it in the 5th round? Like I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Like so he's already got like so he doesn't need the keeper value that Jefferson has. Like he's gonna he's gonna unless it's Gurley like no that too Gurley's not gonna be worth it.
No,
like,
and
so
yeah,
I love the deal. Yeah, like so now Drew gives up a 1st round pick next year, but like, I mean, does he need one? Like with Wilson and Metcalf already? Like I don't know. Like
it's going to be hard, but what I think is helpful is, and this is where I think people need to open and expand their like thought process for trades, is that when an early pick is being traded, people aren't asking for 1 for the 15 for a player, right? I think a lot of us have learned like not to be super guilty. And I think it's time to start like, this is where you start to get multiple rounds involved to not necessarily blow up your draft so that you're only having like 3 picks in the first 10 of the draft. Like now you're starting to get, hey, okay, I will give up my not exactly 1 through 3 or 1 through 4, but a few of those and picking up like a few more like 6 and 7s, because the other thing we always are what we're getting better at is this Rule 9 draft, right? Like we're starting to see the value in bidding on players. And so you don't want to, I don't know. I feel like people need to be more open into spending earlier draft picks because of the fact that you can make up ground in Rule 9. The amount of off-season trading, you could probably move your 2nd up into the 1st round with other moves. It's just,
I don't think you're wrong at all. I think the other side of it though is just that also managers are thinking that getting a bunch of draft picks doesn't necessarily mean success. Like the novelty of completely unloading your team to score 40 points a game and then like have a bunch of draft picks next year, like it's kind of worn off. We've done this for a couple of years. Like we've seen that like you don't necessarily need to have a ton of picks. Like it really does matter what players those picks turn into. So you're not wrong that people maybe should look at like, okay, maybe I could give up my 1st round pick for a 3rd or a 4th, or maybe like I'd be willing to move back from the 2nd to 5th and from the 3rd to the 6th or stuff along those lines, or whatever. But I think just in general, there's like the novelty is worn down about like just completely tanking your team or like buying. Like I feel like we're really kind of, maybe it's just the season and how it's been, and maybe like it'll completely change next year. But I feel like everyone's kind of more on the same page about what that value is, and therefore you're not going to see like the huge swings in like giving up a 1st round pick for a 14th or whatever. Because when Drew traded that with Hunter, it was like a huge like he gave up a 1st for something like ridiculously small.
What is up on our screen right now?
Oh, that is stuff.
That's gonna be great for everyone to listen to.
Yeah, this is a virtual. These are people who are at our booth in the virtual trade show. It's probably timed out anyway. So those are people who were in our booth. I'm working a virtual trade show right now. When was it that Drew gave away?
But I guess like in the meantime, and just to, I'm going to kind of go back with some of your points here, is I think like if people want more players to guarantee championships, they do have to pay even more, because there's less incentive for me to just give away players, because if any of them are keeper valuable, I can either trade them in the offseason or I can, Rule 9 them for myself. So now you have to entice me more as someone who has a player that you want to get them. I think the days of like maybe the buyers having more of an advantage is gone because I think the sellers have more of an advantage now.
That's fair. James, your thoughts?
I do think we do have kind of the perfect balance right now too, with the roster size and the amount of keepers prevents really kind of from anyone collecting more than maybe an extra top 3 pick. For the most part, it seems like it's balanced enough that we haven't really ever seen a situation where someone in the 12 spot is able to get like multiple second round picks. Like usually they have one big sell because of just kind of how the league distributes its players. So just kind of a testament to the setup there that I think there's kind of only that chance to get like that one boom trade for anyone that's sitting in the lower third league.
So I pulled up, and I completely agree again. I pulled up the traded picks document that I know I have the 2018 traded pick somewhere, which is when Drew gave Hunter a first round pick, which is like, I color code these just for my own, like the color codes don't really mean anything, but it's on here. And if you've never looked at the traded picks document on the Splatty League Google Drive, like it's all there if you want to see what, because Yahoo doesn't actually do that, but like here is all of the picks that have been traded for this year. So Drew's first round pick belongs to Antonio, and I've color coded it just to kind of keep track of the trades. Once, like I have Hunter's 9th round pick through Spencer, so like the color code isn't going to perfectly line up every time, but I just want to point out, like Drew got, and I can't remember what the player difference was, but he gave a first round pick for a 4th versus in 2018, or a trade for the 2019 season, Drew gave up a 2nd and 3rd round pick for literally like Travis's 14th and 16th, like as close to as little as possible. And like that's the kind of trade, like I just don't ever see, I can't remember exactly what the players were, like I just can't ever see that type of trade happening again.
And to my point, that's why I feel like like that's crazy, is like, and I'm looking at that, and this is the year, this is right up until Travis's draft, right? Which, like, if anyone wants to see the benefits of what, well, maybe not going as crazy as Drew did and giving up nothing, but like the reason why paying for players pays off is, given his record doesn't show it, Travis's team right now is the top scoring team. So if anyone has set himself up to win a year, there is such thing as like trying to win a year. And then as a buyer, or I guess, or as a seller of players, like there is incentive to give players. So, I mean, we are balanced, but I just mean it's leaning more towards being, people need to be more creative. I think it's less of the low to high trades.
Yeah, I don't think that but like we're seeing trades for like just a couple rounds back now, and that is
also another perfect example of a person who traded away early picks and is doing fine is in fact Drew. Someone who didn't have a 2nd or 3rd round, who we were coming in talking. Let's
well, that was
that episode.
That was coming into actually is when we gave Drew a ton of crap, because that was the first year Rule 9 when Drew got Julio Jones with like the 5th pick, and then had literally like no picks for the first like hour and a half that we were at. Was it Motav?
Motav.
Yeah, like he like made like so, and Drew, Sarah. I don't think she was great. So coming into this year, so coming into this year, lots of picks traded. What are you saying?
No, I'm only looking at James. Sorry, keep going.
No. You want to share with the whole class?
I was just saying we were coming into something with Sarah, but keep going.
Why is everything a joke with you?
You need to slap an 18-year-old and up. A little tag on this Jesus pod.
Yeah, right. No, it definitely it asked me if this content was made for children. I'm like, nope.
Have you met?
But yeah, anyway, it's been almost an hour, and honestly, I thought I had a couple more things I want to talk about, but I can't remember this. Do we have any bold predictions going into this week? Because I don't think yours really panned out very well, Nabil.
Mike Davis didn't do much.
No, he didn't.
So I mean, it did pan out.
You were correct, but that was Did you have any bold predictions, either one of you, for this upcoming week?
I'll make a bold prediction around Kevin's trade that Alexander Madison outscores one of his starting running backs on Travis's bench
this week.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This upcoming week.
Okay.
Alexander Madison will score more than one of Kevin's.
Oh, that's what. Hold on. Duh. That's what we got. I forgot. This is the last thing I want to talk about. You guys play each other this week.
It's a garbage game. No one gives a shit. Ugh.
Yeah, but the two of you are here, and I'm the host of the show. So what's so the deal? You think you already got 1 point? How are you gonna get enough to take him down?
This is the thing where I'm gonna just downplay it, and then James's phone is gonna blow up if for some reason I'm in the lead, and I'm just gonna shit on him the whole time. But I don't have any. Honestly, my gut punch for this league was last week, and I don't have any like. The problem is like I could look at this, and even though Jerry Jeudy isn't something to like be all that excited about, like in the beginning of the year, I felt so confident with some of the players I was able to plug in, and like the idea of having Hunt, Clyde Zeller, and Eckler, and having some depth at that position was just like, oh, I can go into these last weeks and feel good. But I lost so many of those close matchups that I don't have any hope anymore. My hope has been shattered for this season, which is why I started sending me those picks, y'all. And as we said, I don't need a first round. I can can bundle some like 3s and 4s and 5s. Someone who I'm talking to, just send them my way.
I feel like James. What do you got? Like, what are you even hoping to win at this point? What's the?
I am hoping to win. I have not won in 7 weeks. I would really love to have a Sunday that is spent enjoying looking at my phone for updates in fantasy. I mean, I have Chubb came back last week, Calvin Ridley's back, and most importantly, Young Ho Koo is back off the bye.
Yep.
So I'm feeling good. I want to end. I feel kind of like exactly like Tiger Woods putting up a 10 and then finishing strong with 4 birdies. I dropped a 10 and I'm ready to finish the season strong. I'll sell off some people, beat Nabil in the process.
There you go.
This is the start to happier times.
Good. Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to make a prediction on this game. I'm not going to do that to the two of you, but I am very curious to see how it plays out. I don't have a bold prediction for us either. And honestly, like my voice is getting tired. I'm tired of hearing myself talk. Nabil, you got anything else you want to add before we take off?
I should have played Drake.
James?
I wish you had played Drake as well. I didn't.
All right, that's all the time we got. Thanks a lot to the two of you for being on. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Slurred your words at the end. Peace out.
Later.
I've been talking all day.
Wow, it sounded like you hit the bottle.